Woohoo. Are we? But are we? Yes. Okay. It seems that we're live. So, because it's been a while, and I think I forgot how to do that. I mean, not play guitar, but in general, the whole YouTube thing, which I think is a shame, because I think I still have something useful to share and some great guitar ideas that I collect over time, and I think they are worth sharing in general, because the goal is to make everyone play slightly better, or at least get inspired in some way. So I'm gonna shut up for now and play some until anyone shows up, because for now nobody's watching. I can say bad words and profanities and things like that, because nobody will ever hear it. But no, I'll stick to guitar playing. Yep. So this is something that I usually like to do, just as a form of musical meditation, and it's part of my discovery process. And what I mean by that is that no knowledge or theory or any kind of calculated guesses is involved in this kind of playing. It's just for myself. It's just to see what's going to happen, how certain movements going to result in what kind of emotions. Because right now, here where I am, it's 10 past midnight. So it's middle of the night. It's Saturday. My life at the moment is quite crappy. It's not the best moment. Not the best moment to be me right now, to say the least. But that doesn't stop me in any way from trying to still search for emotion and certain musical honesty in whatever I do. And I think that some means that I discovered over the years of both getting certain emotional impact on the listener and being in a feedback loop of hearing what's going on and having certain control and certain intentions and being able to trigger certain particular emotions in the listener. And it was kind of a goal of the whole thing of being a musician, being an artist in one way or another, or to a certain degree, because of course it's something that could be discussed until the cows come home, in terms of like, is playing simple melodies written by someone else somewhere else 50 years ago still a valid form of art? Well, who knows? Maybe when done right, when achieving when the artist is achieving certain goals this way, I mean, like, who the hell whoever is to decide. So what are my musical tools to play beautiful things, to play the way I feel towards every human being and every living creature? Well, let's start with some single notes. Single, solitary note. Let's start with something absolutely, absurdly banal and obvious. This is my C, 5th fret. When I look at the neck, this is my center of my vision. When I look in any direction of my neck, this is like a central point. Of course, it's not center of a string. It's roughly quarter of a string, but half of a distance is here, 12th fret. But this gives me really good view of what's lower than this C and what's higher than this C, right? Another thing is that I can make things happen without much of my control, which is the most beautiful thing about improvising music, about discovery phase of a guitar as such. That sometimes too much knowledge may actually hurt your creative process, because you try to default to what you know, or you imagine certain things through the experience of knowing how to play it. And you can have all the building blocks in the universe, but it's still putting something that won't be surprising in any way to you as a player. So what I like doing is just well, first of all, let the mistakes happen, and the other thing is to look through a slightly different angle and imposing certain creative limitations on what I do. So, C, single note. I played it with my index finger because this is like a default thing, of course. I mean, that's what you want to do, right? Okay. But right now, this particular situation, this particular fingering, kind of implies that my fingers are on this side of the neck, and everything that is below is kind of cut off right now. So this is my comfortable position. I don't have to look or imagine, and I have my majors, I have my minors. I can have some odd stuff. And back to normal stuff. Okay, so this was just the notes that were within my reach, right? I mean, without changing position. Okay, but if I play this C with pinky, suddenly I'm reaching towards the lower notes on G string. So just the fact that I played the same note but thought about different finger, well, it kind of points me into a different direction entirely. Now, bonsoir. So now let's think about what kind of limitations could be good for discovery process. Okay, first of all, let's assume that everything that I have at my disposal is single index finger of my fretting hand and just G string. That's it. Single string, single finger. Because I want to have at least some canvas, some structure. Maybe not structure to work with, but say more of a starting point that I can kind of like explore this particular idea. One finger, one string, and it's going to be G string in this particular case. And let's assume that we're in the key of C major. Just to have nice starting point. Of course, we could explore some odd tonalities and do some weird noises, but right now we're about starting at the common and approachable point that we can take it somewhere. Okay, so single finger, single string. What this kind of where will it take me in the key of C major? so well, C major kind of worked, right? And because I had only one finger, I kept my line with quite small intervals, right? There weren't too many skips, not much of, you know, fourth, fifth. Once in a while I'll just bounce off the open string because I'm in C major, so I can use this G as a pedal point, right? Something that I can skip between one note and the open string. So for example, something like this. Okay, so again, it was one string, one finger, and it kind of already forms certain batch of ideas, right? Because of these limitations, that otherwise I would have to think in terms of, okay, let's play the line that is very, very linear, that has very small intervals, not too much of skips or anything. But if I don't think about that, and I think, okay, I'm just gonna play with one finger, what kind of qualities come with that? Let's try to put these qualities into some into plain words, okay? Something that we can relate to. Okay, because I have natural tendency to slide around, or maybe even if it's not all, if it's not all just pure slides or portamentos, it's kind of integral element of this kind of playing. So what it reminds me is how human voice works, because we don't have frets, but we are changing tension on our vocal cords in a very similar manner. So play some jazz. Okay. Yep. I'll bring some just in a minute, because actually all these techniques. Okay. If I play all of me, okay. De rien, merci beaucoup. C'était plaisir jouer pour toi. Separate Compelis, thanks so much. I mean, I'm always happy to hear if I could deliver something useful, right? Because the thing is that for many years I played as a rockabilly guitar player. Where I had a trio with slapping double bass, and we just had time of our life doing this. But I always wanted to dig slightly deeper, and bonsoir. So the thing was that I wanted to understand how to make these things work in a style, because the style is quite broad. It takes from so many wonderful places musically. So obviously Les Paul, Django Reinhardt, Charlie Christian, whoever came before, plenty of wonderful Western swing players. And the deeper I looked, the conclusion was that it was kind of the same language in terms of like where certain aesthetic choices come from in rockabilly and Western swing and gypsy jazz and swing in general. So I decided that just by going backwards, maybe I'll be able to track down where are these elements of the style? What are they? What is that thing that makes our ears work in a certain way and just actually search for these particular sounds? Possibly the hardest idea for me was to switch from very linear thinking, like in terms of scales. So I knew my modes. I played some shredding hard rock things, some Joe Satriani stuff. I was very much into what he did, and I could pretty much play a lot of his stuff until a certain point. Then I just kind of lost. I mean, I lost interest, but I didn't lose my respect. But for him as a player, as a composer and everything. So I had to come to terms like where exactly these where these lines come from, or Jimmy Bryant's stuff. All these triad runs. It's all chordal. It all comes from harmony information that is being presented in a very, very clear way, and this is what catches the attention. That's what makes a strong melody. I mean, we love these melodies because they have certain structure underneath, and they're driven by harmony, or they're driving harmony. It doesn't matter. It's a chicken and egg problem. Like, okay, are chords that decide what the melody is, or the melody determines what the chords are? And the answer is whatever the composer did, whatever it started with. Some people write with piano and they're laying down chords because they like the chord movement, and then there's another guy coming over and it's like, oh, that's nice. Oh, there's I don't know, this melody possibly would work on that one, and there's another love song, right, in 5 minutes. Sometimes it's just about singing a melody that is nice, approachable, and simple, and reharmonizing it. and for every single note in the melody, there is almost endless there are endless possibilities of how to harmonize certain things. So that's what I've noticed, that usually like a starting point for playing jazz standards is of course a real book that contains fairly incomplete and full of errors and mistakes transcriptions with melodies and chords as they were played during the time that the real book was compiled, right? And because the story how the real book came to be is all over the place, but in general it was not a reliable source. We were always told to learn standards from recordings, right? But not everything was available. I mean, whoever had a record with something, sometimes there was like a sometimes certain things were played very differently from what we had in photocopied charts. Some of the tunes we didn't really care, because some horn player came to jam session and wanted to play ahead and play tune or play solo over it. We just had some generic changes and just wanted to okay, let's play whatever, whatever version we have. We didn't feel attached to these tunes. I know guys that played certain tunes for years and never had a single recording. I'm that guy. I played stuff like All the Things You Are or Autumn Leaves, knowing only versions from jam sessions, of the other players, because it was so overplayed that whenever I came back home, week after week after every jam, I just didn't want to hear it anymore. I mean, why would I care? There was something that was so overplayed and everything. I didn't have the appreciation at that point. Right now, I treat every musical composition in a very, very different way. I mean, some of them are dogs to solo on, and there are tunes that I don't like, that I like playing heads of, but I don't like solo on them because their harmony is. It has some quirks that are cool when you think about them as such as quirky composition, but they're not that great to solo on. So, but getting back to exactly to the happiness in music, and I have a certain observation. That is, I mean, it's always been like that since I remember. That whenever there are jazz standards being played, even in an approachable way, say like gypsy swing, which is nice rhythmical, and there's plenty of certain kind of emotions in there. Not necessarily to push the boundaries. It's just to recall certain style, and to in my view, the biggest trap of them all is that gypsy jazz, gypsy swing was always about freedom, about artistic freedom, about exploration, about very broad palette of fantastic things that can be done over these changes. So. Usually the harmony is not that restrictive. I mean, rhythm players use usually the same voicings. The movements are not that difficult to understand in there, so that the soloist is not locked in any ways. But I see that nowadays it all comes down to just be another very, very proficient Django Reinhardt imitator, which is saddening a little bit, because I believe that there's plenty of things to discover in this style. Still, there's plenty of brilliant music to be discovered in there, and also my my observation about guitar players in general is that during the days of pioneers, 1940s, 1950s, every single player was so distinct that you would never mistake one for the other. You would never say that that Jimmy Bryant sounded like Hungarland, or I don't know. I mean, these guys, they had their distinct voices on an instrument, which was a great thing, because of course they had to borrow from somewhere, but like it was crystallizing in a very, very organic way, and there is no way to pinpoint, oh, here is the point where everyone did something in a very primitive or unsophisticated way, mainly due to the fact that if there is a remaining recording, it had to be by someone who was already worth recording. So we don't really hear much of work in progress from before certain times, right? Just to bear in mind that pretty much in America before 1948, everything was cut on the lathe, because tape recording was it's a fairly modern thing. I mean, when we realized that Les Paul, when he got his 8-track back in 1958, I believe, which was absolutely cutting-edge technology. I mean, by then, 3-track Scully machine was like it was like a state-of-the-art. You know, when you had 3 tracks, oh my God, that was absolutely cutting-edge. So Les Paul got his 8-track machine made by Ampex, and it cost I think it was like $10,000 back in 1958, which is like some absurd amount of money by today's, you know, adjusted for inflation. And that was already at the point where he and Mary Ford didn't have any major hits. Rock and roll was in, and that was pretty much like beginning of tape being main medium of recording, which was cheap and allowed for a couple of takes, allowed edits. Otherwise, it was acetate blank that had to be buzzed, right? So, oh yeah, Scotty Moore, a giant. That's quite incredible. But anyway, I think that because things shifted slightly, and even an idiot like me can broadcast his worthless pinging on a guitar. We have very high noise level, which I also adapt to. I mean, I must admit, unfortunately, that's yeah. I heard that story, yeah. Scotty Moore's. Yeah, I mean, and I mean, when I think about that, even when I was slightly younger, we didn't really have. I mean, of course, we had 2 tracks, right? Quarter inch 2-track tape machines. I had one. I think I was 13, and I actually borrowed one that was still like a valve Czechoslovakian machine that I used to transfer from normal compact cassette so that I could play it at half speed and analyze what was there. Because at this point, computers were not powerful enough to do any time stretching or even resampling, because with this amount of memories that we had back in home computers, we could not record any samples longer than, say, like 25 seconds maybe. So yeah, it was quite hard. But most of my transcribing and learning was by listening, because I have very poor memory, and in general I'm quite a slow mind. I mean, I'm not too quick to read, to notice relationships between numbers, letters, you know, musically, whatever. It takes a very long time for me. So I like practicing slow, and I like listening to the stuff at say at half speed, so that I can see what's there. And there's always this moment when suddenly, when you listen to those brilliant players playing something very, very flashy, and it's absolutely incredible. And it's incredible because there is some sort of mystery behind that. And then you slow it down, and you start hearing this human hand in there, human hand involved in playing. That it's not that perfect. That these notes, that some of them might be not exactly at the right spot. But the overall impression is absolutely incredible. And of course, then you start transcribing and learning and understanding where it comes from. And I think that certain amount of magic is gone by that point, when you look closely how these things work. And I think that this is like jumping over the fence, and suddenly, from being a listener that is impressed by something, you're becoming a player, and your role is to deliver some kind of emotions. I always wondered how to bring those emotions and just play my gut out and still make it enjoyable and communicate something, make it clear why I'm doing that it's not just to to feed my ego or anything, right? It's just serve the music, serve the tune. And possibly the one thing that has not changed over the years, because tastes change, perception change, and listening habits change. Whenever we go to a venue, people talk really loudly over each other. They don't really care what's going on, which means that we would have to play loud, but it doesn't make sense, because it's like stripping the music from dynamics, which are one of the main means of expression. I mean, nothing is loud when you cannot play soft, right? And if your soft notes are completely inaudible because they're being, you know, rumbled over, well, it's something that is getting lost sometimes somewhere. Anyway, one of the tunes that works every time for some reason, it's musical ace of spades. No matter whether there's a jazz session or we play blues tunes, some rootsy Muddy Waters stuff, I back someone on a guitar, and it's usually Reverend Doc delivering his incredible performance. Beautiful human being, wonderful musician. I absolutely adore playing with Rev Doc. But when there was a point, whenever I do this one particular tune, it seems like people are listening. Whatever happened before or after, that's the one that they tend to listen for some reason that I still don't understand why. But it seems like there are certain tunes that even us players don't really realize that they might have a certain impact after all these years. And this tune, of course, is Sleepwalk by Santa and Johnny Farina, right? Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So there is something about sleepwalk that, especially around here, because I'm not entirely sure what's the perception, because I mean, I used to live in the United States, but it was back in 1989 for 4 months. It doesn't count. Kansas Lawrence. Town that is very famous because there was a guy who lives there who's got Einstein's brain in a jar or something. I'm sure that other than Jayhawks Stadium, there is some reason to know that Kansas Lawrence is a place. Anyway, right now I live here in Northern Ireland, and it's a very, very specific audience, but for some reason those old instrumental tunes are cool again. I remember back in, I think, 96, was it? 94? 95? Something like that. Where, thanks to Tarantino, and he brought he brought surf back into the, it was still, it was back in spotlight by people who would never ever be bothered to check what it's all about. So Miserlou, of course, and that kind of like triggered this sort of like phenomenon that old music was cool again. But it was like, but it wasn't a fad. It was like people who were into some artsy fartsy stuff. They kind of, it wasn't your father's or grandfather's music. It was something cool again. It was like, it was a good thing to have a Pulp Fiction soundtrack on at the party. That was like, and it kind of stuck like that, I think. So Sleepwalk and Hank Marvin's playing Shadows, and again, Hank Marvin is also one of these players that never stopped getting better, which is quite incredible. Right now he lives in Australia, and he's got a little gypsy jazz quartet. He plays Macafieri. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you see, it's kind of odd, especially in Europe, that we always had everything slightly later, and depending on where exactly we were, we kind of had it like a second-hand experience, I would say. So, for example, where I'm from originally, we were behind Iron Curtain. So until, I would say, popular music started with Rolling Stones and Beatles, right? It was pretty much mid-60s, and rockabilly as such didn't have that much of an impact. It was like a secondary thing. So it was usually later Elvis that was kind of like floating around on some bootleg copies, or some really odd Bulgarian vinyl records that were like completely, it was some sort of like glue copies or something. I mean, it was absolute madness. They did some counterfeit illegal vinyl records, because there was absolutely no way of buying them in official circuit, and sometimes people working on cruise ships were able to bring something. Sailors brought a lot of stuff from abroad, But again, it took some time until we had like proper appreciation for rock and roll, and maybe because it was so inaccessible, it kind of stuck for longer. And surf music as such, I would say, I mean, among musicians, for sure. I mean, I remember the situation when I met with one of the older guys, and it's like not the previous generation, but like 2 generations before, guys like me, and we're sitting in a back room of a music venue, and they were, which was a great thing. All the musicians, hanging around, talking. Some have not seen each other for months or years, and there was this older guy that was like a huge guitar authority, and a guy that was like a big name recording artist, writer, one of these established guys who still managed to get onto the old music industry and make the best out of it. And I remember that I started playing some Ventures melody. We're showing off guitars, something like that. Oh, I bought this thing. Oh, and I bought this thing. Well, as always, guitar wagging, usual musician stuff. So of course, someone brought a Strat. I had my Gretsch or something like that, and I started playing Dwayne Eddy's like 40 Miles of Bad Road. And this guy was sitting in a corner, and he stood up, and he was wearing glasses, and always when he was intrigued by something, he was always pushing those glasses, and he was like very well-mannered guy. He was one of the guys that spoke French, and he was like one of those posh rock and rollers, true artist. And he was like, he was like, and well, where did you learn to play these tunes? And it was like assuming that nobody gave a crap about this stuff, especially not the guy who could be his grandson almost, right? And it was something that I had just absolutely pure and uncalculated interest in, and I felt really I would say pretty much on my own, because the guys that I played with didn't really know these tunes. So it was about kind of like bringing it back somehow. It was confirmed because we all played Shadows. I mean, that was like. It was absolutely. The cool thing was that it was within reach. The easy tunes were easy, but like let's see what the other tunes are like, and they're beautiful melodies, but they're not that obvious to play. And even recently, I watched Hank Marvin doing, I think it was like 2006 or 2009 Farewell tour that they did. So with brilliant Brian Bennett on drums, very serious drummer, serious musician, serious composer. But I wanted to see, because what positions, where on the neck did Hank Marvin play this stuff? Because of course, when I was a working musician, I just learned from the recording. I didn't care. It was about playing the melody, play the melody, get paid. That was the objective. But right now, because I say over the years, I started paying attention more to certain details, because I think that Hank Marvin had this. He got his clean electric guitar tone absolutely right the first time, and it was in his touch, in his articulation. He never played with like with a straight or forced articulation. It was never like pluck a note and go home. Nothing like that. I mean, this guy This guy was using whammy bar to shape the note from the very start, and he was changing positions, sometimes playing the same melody, same phrase in the same tune in different positions just to accommodate some like different vibrato on the end of the phrase. So it was, I would say, though it doesn't sound like it's sophisticated, the mechanics behind it definitely are. And I watched, I just wanted to know, because I was frustrated for a long time that I could not get my Stratocaster to sound that pristine, that clean. And the main thing was that Hank Marvin, having a whammy bar in his palm at all times, he was picking here almost on the neck pickup, and he was using a very light touch. His sound was very clean because the amp was up, and he played with a high. I think for the old stuff he used like 12th gauge string, so it was very stable pitch. And I don't have whammy bar on this one. I mean, it's operative, but the arms are in all the other Stratocasters. So the thing is that this was something that also kind of disappeared. There is not much of a clean guitar outside of realms of jazz, maybe, and even the clean guitars afterwards weren't really that clean. I mean, we perceive them as clean because they're not like warbly, crunching guitars, but it's really hard to place clean guitar in a mix, and I tried and I failed many times, because like clean guitar is very vulnerable. It's very easy to stomp on. If you have a drummer that is too loud, exactly, yeah, definitely. So right now I'm playing with jazz quartet, and keeping up with sometimes with a drummer and electric bass player can be a challenge to keep a guitar clean, because there is a natural reaction, and I think that applies to pretty much to any physical instrument. When the band is starting to play louder, natural thing is to strum harder. But when you strum harder, suddenly the energy that you put in the string just bounces back off the fretboard, and you don't get much of much of volume back. So the idea is usually just to turn up the amp and play with lighter touch. But to keep the sound clean, you usually need the amp that is very loud. I mean, high-powered amps, right? So that can stay clean, because that's the idea. So I mean, I never reached that point that I had to use twin reverb for my clean guitars. I actually sold my twin reverb like 2 weeks ago or something. Just I mean, I had it as a practice amp. I mean, and it was definitely going overkill. Also, at these volumes, it was just too bright. It made every single guitar that I had sound like it had some fret buzz problems, and it was that's just the way the amp sounds. I mean, it has this kind of like traveling characteristics that work brilliant on stage. It's just right when it's out on the bandstand with a band. It doesn't feel bright at all. But in a small room right next to me, even with attenuators, with EQs and everything. It just had this spiky top end that I don't really like at all. So right now I have a Fender Concert, which is like 60 watts, valve, tube, Rivera era amp that has a clean channel, and it has a boost channel which is pretty much identical to the clean channel, but there's a way to crank it slightly, and it just sounds like the amp that is being turned up slightly, still clean, but there is a nice response that I really like. And yeah, I mean, clean tone is a hard discipline, and unforgiving. That was a mistake, but I like it. Okay. What is this thing? This is augmented triad. And on top of that, I have sharp 9. So something that doesn't belong with augmented as such. And it resolves really in a really nice. Yeah, oh, definitely. I mean, I'm lucky enough that I can always take things to my gigs, and this way I actually got rid of a couple of things very quickly. So current trend of using small amps, unfortunately, in these conditions that I work with, unfortunately it doesn't make any sense, because a vast majority of the venues that I play, we just play straight from the amps, like back in the 70s. These venues don't have PA. We don't carry PA because we're an instrumental band. We don't. Well, sometimes we do, but it's just for a singer. At this point, we don't want to blast too loud through the PA. So I want to stay clean. So I need something that is at least 40-50 watts. Otherwise, I had a Fender Deluxe Reverb, which is very well regarded as a brilliant amp that is like the go-to thing. But well, it was overdriven at all times, and I couldn't really play any complex chords because it was crunching. So I had to give up. I sold it like after a month. I really wanted to like it and love it and keep it, but it just didn't cut. Possibly from like the lightweight amps, recent lightweight amps that are still deliver. Possibly the best thing that I can think of is custom Vibrolux 210 speakers, 35 watts. This thing was like a sweet spot between Deluxe and Twin Reverb, but it was very light. The weight of Vibrolux and Deluxe is exactly the same, though Vibrolux has 2 speakers. And this amp was brilliant, but I was stupid and I traded it for a Bassman, which was heavy. It was loud. It was brilliant. I had some joys with it, but then I just gave up Bassman. I traded Bassman for Silverface Pro Reverb, which was fantastic. Apart from one thing, that the Utah speakers that it came with, it was a late 70s, early 80s. I think it was a late 70s one with master volume. It had some sort of resonant thing that was like ice peaky mid-range. It wasn't top end. It was like mid-range that was causing physical pain when I was playing. playing it. Again, this thing went, and then I had a couple of things, like twin reverb. I had my 1964 Blackface Tremolux that I was just sweating too much over it. I didn't want to. It was a head and a huge cabinet, basement 1960s cabinet. I didn't want to carry around vintage stuff that was still worth something onto pub gigs. So also recently I sold it to a gentleman in Dublin. And now I got one amp, and I got emergency amp, which is like a little electroharmonics thing that it's like a 44 watts solid state thingy that I keep in my guitar bag just in case Fender craps out, because things get broken, things break, stop playing. Though this one never let me. The current amp that I have is 40 years old, and there's never ever had any problems with it, never anything. So yeah, that's these are my gear stories. Right now I have way too many guitars, but I enjoy them for now. I'll have to. I'll be moving houses at some point later this month, possibly, and because I want to get into producing videos again and do my full-time musician thing, because for past 7 years I was dealing with depression and anxiety, and it was a dark time, and I was completely dysfunctional. I didn't do anything useful pretty much, apart from gigging, but it was always somebody else's projects, and I just didn't have any motivation or energy to work on them. But I just wanted to keep my chops kind of in a natural manner. But again, it was very, very uninspired and uninspiring. So for me, it's quite a new thing, new beginning, and I'll just sit and practice all day long, like in the good old days. My thoughts on Sleepwalk, because this is incredible tune, absolutely incredible tune. In its simplicity, there's so much that could be done. What I love about this tune is that you can teach it on the third lesson to someone who just started playing, and just show them the melody. With one finger or something. But if you have something more to offer, oh my God! I mean, like again, every single of my favorite players had their take on it, and it's quite incredible. Like for me, these were like two separate worlds. Brian Setzer and Joe Satriani. And they both have Sleepwalk on one of their albums along past 20 years, and I think it's quite incredible. Jeff Beck had his version, Everyone did it. Les Paul did his version. Whether it was live in Iridium or something, pretty much everyone played this tune. Hank Marvin did the version, obviously, with Shadows. And like so many incredible ways just to play those two first notes, right? So from very straight, very simple, this first phrase, because these are long notes. Whenever I play it in front of people, I find it very difficult because there is a huge responsibility. There is no way to fake anything in between those two notes, and they have to be the most beautiful two notes that I can deliver at this point, because they have memories with these tunes. They listen. They just dropped everything, and they turned their heads and they started listening to this tune. And this stupid C could be played as a fretted note in different positions. To me, shifting the string is like opening mouth, because the higher string, the rounder the sound, the darker the sound. So it's like going from a to o. So this is also a creative choice. How gentle I want to be with my opening line. I know that I'm overthinking this, but this is exactly what I try to deliver when I play this tune. Of course, it's all emotional, but I need to have control over these two things. I don't want to spoil it in any way, and because there's so little, like at first sight, there's so little to do on this tune. It's just just C, G, but it could be. And because these are long notes, there is a important question of vibrato. How, why, which one? What do I want to do under the circumstances? Because there are a couple of ways to deal with that. I like thinking with, especially in a slow tune that is in like 12/8. I want my vibrato to kind of aim for subdivisions in the bar, but not in a direct way. So it's not like it's when there's enough time. I want to build up my vibrato if the note doesn't die, obviously. Now, the thing that I kind of slightly dislike about this sort of straight vibrato is that because it raises the pitch, right? That's the only way. I have my pitch and I can raise it, so it can cause like impression that the note is slightly sharp. So what I really like to do is slightly fake lap steel thing, by bending it from half step below. And right now I can pitch it down, because to our ears, pitching down sounds when the pitch is slightly lower and is aiming, and we're aiming from the bottom up, it sounds closer to what we do with vocals. Usually we sing slightly flat and reach the pitch where it's supposed to be. But aesthetically, I can do so there are so many ways to open this line. So it's just like pretending that I have a tone bar on a lap steel, and again it's from the bottom up, just to correct the pitch, but also which C sounds the best for the situation, right? Is the room sounding dark or bright? Is this note gonna pierce anyone's ear, or is it gonna, die completely under the band's playing? It's so many things that I need to consider to deliver this melody, and it's every time it's like that. On the second time, I like do almost this Brian Setzer thing, which is just having chords, even this. But in general, the power is in single single notes in here. Where I pick has also tremendous impact, right? Because it's closer to the bridge, and closer neck. Again, it's this quality of almost like using mouth. Yeah, so, whoops. My phantom converter just reached the floor. Okay. So the one that also that grabs attention. I mean, we can play anything. We can anything during the night. We can play like up-tempo Cherokee or something like Donna Lee. But towards the end of the set, in one local pub that we have a regular gig. Usually, hello. Usually it's Apache that gets do I play with other scales? I, in general, tend not to play with scales at all. I had like initial learning experience that comes from like a fusion modal thing, and it was kind of like, okay, I'll be happy to share, Daniel. So the thing is, my take on scales in general in this kind of old style playing. The idea is that scale as such is more like an alphabet than like grammar, and all of this is descriptive, which I mean that neither knowing scales nor progressions nor chord theories nor intervals or ability to name anything won't give you clear idea where the stuff that's been played comes from. And that's not to say that I don't like music theory. I have some classical training. I honked classical saxophone for 7 years, and I studied music theory and ear training, mostly ear training. I didn't give a crap about saxophone. I wanted to play guitar, but I went to music school because that was the only way to get formal training of any kind. You know, at this point where I was learning, which was quite a long time ago. And the thing is that what is the closest thing to show you where the right notes are, and that's also quite a broad misconception, which are right, is in the chord that is at a specific moment in the tune and where this chord is going. Because the problem is that knowing your majors and minors is basically like just at least knowing where the framework is, but they don't have the meaning applied as such, right? What gives a scale a meaning is chord or chord progression or movement or resolution of certain things, right? Okay. I absolutely understand. Okay. Let's start with a very simple concept. Simple concept that is worth having a look in future. It's going to take some time because the beautiful thing about this exercise that I'm going to show is that it's not connected to any kind of knowledge, right? We'll start with the single notes. We'll start with C. C on the 5th fret, G string. And this C could be a lot of things. This C could be any of 12 steps against something, right? So it could be a root of C major, right? C major triad, do, 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 C, E, G, okay. But it could be a major third of A flat, right? Do, 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 do. It could be 5th of F major. Do, 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 do. We still have same C here. I'll just check my tuning because I'm flat. Okay, now. Okay, so now this C major triad could be one chord of C major, one as a tonic, right? The one that song in C major ends, but it could be a 4 chord of G major. Right, I'm in the key of G major right now. C. Yes, I'm aware of that, Roger, but the thing is that I never really had enough time to work out any arrangement of pop songs. This seems to be, you see, I started doing videos for very different reasons, right? I have a couple of ideas for popular tunes, but it's like not, there are some hardcore jazzers doing their amazing reharms, and it's something that I'm just not proficient enough to offer. And they're coming from a background where it's just natural language, right? It seems that no matter what I would roll out, the algorithm works in a terrible way, because I could make some funny, really elaborate video and spend a lot of time on it, and the algorithm wouldn't just promote it at all. So funny thing is that the most popular thing on my channel right now, which is there are two. Basic rockabilly finger picking thing. It's like multi-part, how to get from very, very basic rhythms to the backing that you have, like in older Decca records with Buddy Holly, for example. Yeah, they bring views, but also the problem is that I would possibly prefer having a sustainable audience, because at this point, like, it puts a pressure on me to do stuff that I don't like. I mean, if I want to do stuff that I don't like, I could, for example, like, get a job that I don't like. It's pretty much the same thing. I mean, the only difference is that I would just sit and play guitar. But in my actual maybe not a day job, but my regular gigs are the stuff that I like doing. So, and again, it's a gamble. I'm not that I'm lazy, but I like to be kind of like time. I like to work in a time efficient manner. So, for example, pretty much all of my videos are unedited. It's a single take. I don't care, words and all. I hate listening to my voice. I hate seeing myself. That's why I never put these videos through editing software, because I just don't want to spend any more time, and things that are not that obvious for most of the people, that sometimes doing one edit means that you're gonna work 3 times as long as the video lasts in general. Like, for a single editing point, you need to render it, then you need to upload it, which is not. I mean, rendering requires like quality check, because sometimes things can go wrong during rendering, and sometimes you can upload thing and, for example, like, the sound is out of sync. Or my favorite thing is that one of the videos was rendered as a mono, because all my audio is mono. I mean, it's a single microphone that is, that's straight center in pan, and guitar is also monophonic. So there was just like a single audio track, because why would I waste my drive space for exactly the duplicate of the same thing? But the rendering engine decided that it will put it on just on the left side. So things like that. And if you re-upload the same video, the algorithm can treat it as like a upload of the same content, and like not promote it at all. First time is the first couple of minutes are the most important, and it's right now it's a really crappish situation, because you cannot really rely on views. It's like, you know, I have certain objectives that I want to push. It's just, you know, more of interesting concepts that someone might, you know, someone might find. I know that again there are plenty of guys that teach step by step, but like in my book, it's always about understanding, or at least seeing certain where things are coming from. Hey, David! Oh, great to see you. Okay, so we've been talking with Daniel about things like how not to sound like a scale. Very simple. Every single note, its importance is like its significance and its quality changes with the chord that is underneath. So say this is my C, as I mentioned before, and the C is a major third of A flat 7 chord. It's sus4 for G sus7. It's sharp 11 for F sharp minor. All right. So the easiest way is to get two chords. Let's say we have two chords, C major and the G. Very obvious. C major, G, C major, G. Now let's have a look. The same C note to C major. Well, it sounds obvious, conventional, resolved, right? But to G, the same note, it's suspended, right? So it can be. Well, I mean, let me make it clear. Mark Knopfler is a genius. He's absolutely brilliant player, and Dire Straits songs are some of the best written stuff ever. It's just I have like a natural resistance to do what everyone else is doing. I mean, it never landed me anything good. It never brought me to any good point by doing something that everyone does. Also, I'm wired slightly differently up here, which makes things complicated as well. But anyway, just knowing that, for example, if we have, you know, the most common lie that minor pentatonic will work on this and major pentatonic will. This is a shortcut. This is like an entry-level thing, right? And this is not something that we actually use in real life, in real work. I mean, if we use pentatonics, it's also contextualized. So it's like when you show someone minor pentatonic scale and you go, okay, this is this tool, like learn this, and then you want them to play a solo over some sort of backing, and it usually starts like this. I mean, you're spelling the scale, right? There's no music yet, and that's something that doesn't really have any musical impact, right? But when we think this minor pentatonic as a starting point, but say in the middle, right? Let's hang on to one note, but instead of using the tool of shifting to next or previous note of the scale, if we can do something with this note, we can like put a rhythm on top of that, some sort of. Right now, this band is onto another note in another note in pentatonics, right? So just with these two fingers and three notes, I can do more than just musically than just spelling the scale. Okay, that's at fourth note, A. Okay. So this is all that I have. We're in minor, of course. But this thing, in this context, the line that I just played suggests that is all A minor, right? But I can also use it on C major with no problem at all. But now the significance of these notes shifts, right? Because this line as such doesn't really show what the chord is. But if I play something like that, this thing contains three chords already, so it's so it was very clear where it wants to go, right? So scales as such don't contain harmony information, and they don't tell us which notes sit better. I like to think about every single note as something that is like a vector being closer or further to the chord. It's like having a wee magnet that is being pulled slightly towards the chord. And there are certain notes that are very close to the chord, they're already snubbed magnetically. Some of them are very close, and some of them are completely and some of them are very far, very tense, right? And interesting thing, because if we have C major scale and C major chord, apart from F, every single note works quite well with this chord. And what I mean by that, when we look at things that go beyond triads, roots, third and fifth, right? So usually we can have something like 6. This is like a rock and roll, early rock and roll chord, something that is very good replacement for boring C major. Or we can, instead of 6, we can have major 7. This is more of a loungy, jazzy, There's and so on. Right? This one is the nice one. It's less of rock and roll. This is more like a more like a jazz chord, definitely, right? Okay, so we already covered 6 and 7, A and B, D. Works really nice, almost like a Jimi Hendrix chord of sorts. Okay, now the thing with F. F, it's this is a note that sounds unresolved. It sounds like almost like a mistake. It's in some situations it works. In general, you know, acquired taste. If you like something like that, in general, it wouldn't be possibly something that we would reach in the first place. Okay. Okay, so what did we have? Which notes of the major scale, C, D, F, G, A, B, we used and checked already against C major. We checked C because it's here, D was there, E was there, F we kind of ruled out because it was crappy, G was okay, A was okay, B sounded okay. So we pretty much spelled the whole scale already. So, okay, we got this major scale, and it seems that every single note of this major scale is okay over a C major chord, apart from F. But are they the same? And here's the thing. What do they do to this chord? What kind of quality or what kind of emotion do they do they recall, they evoke? So this one is nice and dreamy, right? We already established that. This one also sounds nice, or more like a something like a lap steel, pedal steel chord. Right? So 6 and 7, 9, but it's add 9. It's very important because C9 would mean that this also has dominant 7 in it, but this one doesn't, so it's add 9, right? Okay, so we see that we have this upper structure thing that that gives certain quality, and when we solo, it works pretty much exactly the same, because it's just note on top of a chord that is played by maybe somebody else, right? Bass player, other guitar player, or even doesn't have to be audible. It can be just in the structure of the song, but it doesn't have to be audible. Now, it gives us one cool possibility. Let's not name these things at all. We don't have to name them. For me, when I see a chord symbol that says C major in the key of C, it means that I can use every combination of, in any order, of major major scale notes played at once, apart from F. So this can be C major. This can be C major. This can be C major. This thing can be C major. Right? As long as there is no F in it, they're all C major. I can move them around. I can play melodies with these chords. Whoops, I played F. My fault. All right? So suddenly, because these things, these extended notes of a major chord, they add extra color and they're opening possibilities, right? This also means that whenever I play a line, depending on what kind of emotion I want to go for, I choose which note it is. So, root, third and fifth. Rev. If I want to sound like a trumpet, I'm going hunting or something, then I can play major triad all day long, but it sounds bleak because there are no tensions in here, right? Nothing happened musically. I played the right notes. They were all the right notes. They didn't do anything musically. They were complete. They were like empty vessels, right? It was like opening door, going in, going out, right? Jumping over the threshold, not going really anywhere. Okay, but okay. This is my triad. E, G, C. I just filled blank spaces in between those two notes. Okay, now, I didn't think about scales at all. I didn't need major scale because I used chromatic round, but I had my C major triad. So, chord was my compass. It was my map. It was showing me where are my waypoints, right? But the way I reached them made all the work, and it was completely irrelevant to scale. Scale didn't have any meaning at this point, right? So this is kind of the thing that is like always worth exploring and looking into, well, like where it is. Well, it's always how far from the chord we are, right? So playing C sharp over C major is something that will sound tense. Sounds like a mistake, right? And also very hard to sing. If I try to sing C sharp over C, my brain will want to snap onto the chord. That's another thing. I made a video on audiation, which is a technique just of singing the line that you want to play and trying to replicate it on a guitar, because our brain is very powerful when it comes to find what sounds right in a context, right? So it's really hard to sing a wrong note, and naturally it will want to resolve onto something. Okay, surfboard picking technique. I mean, it really depends what you mean, because Noki Edwards, for example, he had absolutely splendid picking hand and great articulation. If you mean Dick Dale, that's another thing, because my take is like I use basically three picking techniques with the flat pick, and it's from the most detailed to most coarse. I use fingers just like that, almost like holding a pencil, and just this movement produces sound. I use this pronation and supination movement. No, it's just rotation of the palm. Pronation and supination, I believe, is that movement. Okay. So this movement, there is a forearm movement, and there is a whole elbow as well. So it's like four things, right? And every single of them brings something different. So for example, this one is precise, but it's not too fast. I'm just playing with finger movement right now, and nothing else moves, right? There is no rotation of any kind, no muscle movement. It's just fingers. But because it's a quite broad movement, you can see that there is some activity in here, but it's like not. Right, so this is just in fingers. Now, this movement. It's consistent, it's repetitive. But above certain tempo, it can cause a certain strain somewhere in here. And this thing, which comes from elbow, is possibly the fastest but least precise. If I were to play Miserlou, for example, I would possibly go with the elbow. And also, this is a 2mm pick that doesn't bend. It doesn't bend at all. It's completely being held softly in my picking hand, and it just springs back and forth by the way I hold it, right? So it's flexes. Oh, maybe it's gonna be visible. So it's I just let it spring with. It's held very lightly. So when I push it with my fingers, that's about it, right? I mean, it won't fall. But it's very subtle. So I don't have any. And that's roughly how I approach it, because I tried at certain point I tried to keep very consistent right hand technique, picking hand technique, and the thing was that something that worked for single note lines, you know, this like a very localized, very precise. For tremolo picking, it just didn't work at all. Okay, David asked about drum patterns. What is worth listening to? Okay, that's a very broad thing, because I think that apart from understanding swinging rhythm, so even playing you know, gypsy jazz chords, but with some sort of live drummer, so. Understanding the idea that the actual swing happens over quarter note, not in between. That's not dun 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 dun. It's not a triplet shuffle, but it's this kind of pulse that happens on the beats, and just by listening to great jazz drummers, that's where it's at, really. The only possibly consistent point in bar is 2 and 4, but I have a couple of ideas as well how to practice rhythm in general, because what we usually end up with is locking with the drummer, because every drummer has a different feel. They come from, you know, different backgrounds musically, with different ideas, different fascinations. So some of them are playing ahead of beat and sound very exciting. Some of them sound laid back, depending on the style that they play. So it's more of like building awareness where they are in terms of their groove. Are they ahead or laid back or straight up on beat? And one of the greatest thing to practice is to use metronome, but in a slightly different way than it may seem. Oh, Daniel, that's a very crucial thing. I never played with proper gypsy jazz technique because it comes from a completely different spot. It had to be very economical because, you know, they use this huge picks, like, you know, 3-5 millimeter. It's mostly downstrokes with a slant, and it's about huge transfer of energy because most of the stuff was unamplified and they had to be very loud. And on electric guitar, it doesn't translate to louder playing, only more percussive. And I never really found any use for it. I mean, it's just just didn't work for me, really. I didn't feel like that I would like to spend any more time making it sound properly in terms of a style, because I don't really think that there was much of use, especially in terms of playing lines as well, because like the idea of whenever there are two adjacent strings, you want to do two downstrokes, right? So, for example, usually I would prefer alternate picking, not always, but in most of the cases, right? So it's going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Well, you see, it's just serving that fast downstrokes. It's just working around like whatever works, and because it's an old technique, that's because these guitars sounded in a particular way. These were drummerless bands, so usually you had very little chord timbre, and it was more of a percussive element of it all. So it was like a double function. You rarely hear, you know, like chord ringing in gypsy jazz stuff. It's very short. On electric, it just doesn't make much of sense, you know. I don't claim that I know much about that, because I play with some guys that practice this style, and they're absolutely great. I am not. Whenever I join gypsy jazz outfit, it's more like having someone who's coming from like a musical world that is very close to, like, say, it's like having maybe Chet Atkins and Les Paul sitting in with something completely different. You know, it's like I know how to save my sorry ass, but it's not like like I'm quoting, you know, some particular solos from 1930s. It's just like, you know, coming from a different spot. Okay. Okay. Also, Daniel, you mentioned that you don't feel like you have a range in terms of singing what you play. I mean, the easiest idea would be just to shift octaves, whatever. So, say, I use this technique pretty much all the time. It's not always allowed, you know, like I'm not singing out loud, but in general, whenever I feel stuck somehow, or the ideas are not really flowing the way that I like, I just start singing my lines. So, for example, say we're some swinging tunes, or like with 1-6-2-5, something obvious, and the line that I could think and sing would be possibly something of sorts like, you know, and so on and so forth, right? So if you feel like you're lacking around, just shift the octave. Like don't sing as high, because you know I have a narrow range. I mean, I don't pretty much sing at all, only when I have to. But there's one more thing that might help in general. Try to use your voice in ear training. For example, you can make this simple exercise. Say you want to learn the sound of major third interval, right? So major third is pretty much, you know, you can think of any melody that starts with major third. I cannot think of any right now, because unfortunately for me, major third is not anymore any melody. It's just major third, just major third. I mean, it sounds how it sounds, and it sounds like that, right? Do 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 do. This is C. Okay, D, F sharp, da da, C sharp, da da. Now, simple exercise. Play the first note, sing the second one. Or play the first one and sing the first one and second one. Da, da, and check. Okay. Ba, da. Okay. Da, da. And so on and so forth. And this way, you're not only using your voice to guide your ear, but also doing something to, you know, to work with it. Just playing by playing random notes and trying to build the interval, right? And then you can broaden those intervals to fourth, for example. Da pa da da. This is fourth, right? Da da da. Pa pa. Do do. And you know, play the interval, sing the interval, check, did you land where you wanted to land, and then it's, you know, just about breaking everything down to pieces, because the something that we usually forget about is that even the most complex line or chord is usually a collection of single notes, and we can break it down to single notes. Okay, sometimes it's hard to hear them in the recording. Sometimes they pass by really swiftly, and we cannot hear them all precisely. Something that you know, that I'm really good at, not hearing not hearing fast notes. So some of the stuff, when it's slowed down, makes way more sense. So it's just about, and YouTube has this brilliant feature that you can take any recording that is there and time stretch it. It's not like slowing down with the pitch going down, it's just time stretching. So you can get like a quarter tempo and pretty much break down all the most difficult things onto pieces. And sometimes it's just like taking a tiny little snippet, tiny little clip, like say half a second, and something's going on in this half a second, and you slow it down, and you hear that there's something there, and you, good thing is just try to yeah, you see, try to work out tunes by ear, but instead of playing first, try singing first, because that's very crucial thing. I always liked teaching from, whenever someone came for initial training, for first lessons, like, very important objective to me is that we want to be musicians expressing ourselves with the guitar. It's not like guitar makes me execute some list of instructions, right? I mean, this way anyone can really learn. I mean, it's the whole process is kind of simplified, because that's the goal. That musicianship is not sexy. Understanding mechanics of music. I don't use music theory because it's like a repellent. So usually when you say music theory, people stop listening right away. But musicianship as such is hard to sell, because it takes some time to build things from ground up. But it's very efficient, and it's very transferable skill, because if you build your inner ear and you are able to sing and name things, then it doesn't matter what instrument you play, because you can learn technique of any instrument apart maybe from violin, because this is like a, if you start at 12 months, it's already too late to get a good tone. Anyway, most of the instruments are learning basic technique is not as hard as building understanding of music. If you know what notes you want to play and you can figure out where these notes are, it doesn't really matter. I mean, for example, I didn't touch saxophone for years, but I can internalize. Internalize, and I don't have tone, because all these habits are gone. My teeth are very sharp right now, so I possibly bite through the mouthpiece right away. But I still remember the fingerings. I can imagine the line, and I can precisely know what to press, right? And it's pretty much the same thing with a guitar. I don't have perfect pitch, but if I get myself the C, and I think of a line that goes like do 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 do. I know where it is. Do 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 do. So it's like building this kind of bridge, like sweeping aside complexity of the instrument, and there are certain shortcuts that shortcuts in terms of like just visualizing this thing, like knowing what to do with my fingers to play my brain out, and what kind of control do I have. And of course, as a player, I'm a part of a feedback loop. When I don't hear what I like, I can correct, right? I can fix it right away. It's not that I made I executed some sort of list of instructions and I'm done, and I don't care. I assumed that it was okay, right? It's not like that. I mean, it's about reacting to what's going on, and having some sort of control over, you know, not only creative side of pitches and rhythms and articulation, that all channels down to emotional side of music, which is crucial. If it's not there, it's pretty much pointless. But I thought for many years that knowing things and having control over instrument and being able to imagine every line that I can play, that this will give me some level of proficiency, that it will give me like a creative freedom. But it turned out that believing that and assuming that I can only play stuff that I know how to play or can imagine was actually very, very limiting. And this is something that we usually hear, that knowing theory limits your creativity. It's more like, it's like being on the left side of Dunning-Kruger curve. I mean, it's like knowing enough to hurt yourself, but not enough to be proficient. Assuming that you're already there because you know some things and they kind of make sense, and at the same time not willing to be stupid again. And I love being stupid again as a musician, and take chances and just see what happens if instead of, you know, intervals I do a spaceship shape on a guitar, you know, like this diminished thing, right? Because it's for example, or what happens if I take this note and take these two notes? Okay, this is quite nice obvious chord. What happens if I move these two fingers because they're on the same fret? Wouldn't it be nice if they go together somewhere else? Oh, this one is also nice movement and easy to do, right, with fingers, right? Oh, okay, let's have a look. Ooh, maybe I'll change fingerings because this one was inconvenient, right? Okay, what happens if I move just one finger, like one fret lower? Being stupid is a beautiful thing. That's where the creative process, especially on a guitar, works really well, because I don't remember who it was. Which of the guitar players was that mentioned that the guitar is very hard to learn, mostly because every note is in 2.6 places, which is kind of true. That the same pitch on the piano, when I press C, that's the only way to get this C out of it, right? In different octaves, of course, there are different octaves, but in case of a guitar, I have E on open string, I have E on 5th fret, here, and here, and here. And they're all different. They're all different E's. They have different timbre. They have different voice, right? This one is dark. This one is bright. Right. So, and also, I can depending what I'm aiming for, I can make my life very hard by for example, having a couple of notes to play. Say, okay, E, F, G. I can play E, F, G here. Open string, first third. I can play E, F, G, playing E with my pinky finger. I can play E, F, G here, with every finger. Right? So there are so many ways, so many fingerings to play exactly the same pitches, So in theory, they're the same notes, but in practice, this is different voice. It's like it's like having different way of speaking, right? More nasal thing or deeper voice or something. It's all here, right? Same message but different timbre, and just being aware of that, I think it's what makes guitar really unique. Also, certain limitations that come with the guitar, quite serious ones, like for example, on a piano, if I want to play C, C sharp, D, these three notes at once, I can just like put my fingers close, you know, on adjacent keys and press it. It's going to sound awful because that's musical decision to make it sound awful. But on a guitar, playing C, C sharp, D is very hard. I'm not sure if it's impossible. C, C sharp, D. Can I play it? C, C sharp, D. I can, barely. C, C, C sharp, D here. It's going to be slightly easier, right? So it's something that is very hard to execute. Say something like that. But I want all the notes to ring, right? C, D, E, G. Okay, C, D, E, G. I have to use open string, right? Okay. If I want to do the same thing in D major. Okay. What can I do now? Because I'd have to choke my first string to play it. So maybe this A here. So right. So this thing is now not transferable. Right, on the piano, I just do all these notes, and they just sound like that, right? So certain things are really hard, not impossible, but impractical, right? One of my favorite aspects that this guy, Thumpik, it makes the whole approach to choose to playing lines completely different, because Thumpik is very limited in terms of upstrokes. They just don't sound right. They're very hard to execute, and not impossible, but they're very limited, because basically playing with Thumpik was meant to unlock the thumb to play with fingers, right? So suddenly, instead of up and down movement with pick, I have to substitute it for something. So, like entry level concept is of just using thumb and a finger, right? So, for example, I would normally do down up down up down up down up. With thumb pick, I can try thumb index thumb index thumb index thumb index. Right? But possibly using more fingers would be slightly better. Well, I took a break from Thumpik, but in general I worked out a way that worked for me, that I started with index thumb third as a way of picking. Now the problem is, if we have a bar of 4/4 and we split every beat onto equal, say 8 notes or 16 notes, there are 4 of them, not 3, and I have 3 fingers. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. My pulse is pretty much compromised, so I need to find a breaking point somewhere to go back to my index finger as a first beat. So it's another thing that logic doesn't apply, but certain practical implications are. So Yes, that's kind of. It's an odd thing. So okay, so the question is, if it's so hard, do I even look at the right place? Because I just played with this thing. Maybe this is like maybe this thing is a very poor substitute for pick. It doesn't bring anything better. So watching Chet Atkins or Jerry Reed was like opening doors to something, to completely different approach to playing lines, right? So right now I played, if I play, say, like some C major run, right? I'm using closed position of sorts, one or the other, just to get these notes. But when I have this thing is really terrible when it comes to repeating notes on the same strings. In general, picking hands is not that great. So why not spread it so it feels more natural for the picking hands, right? Picking hand. I'm in key of C major and I'm pretending to play C major scale instead of going C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C and squeezing my hand on a single string. I can spread this one, but now that's how and why. Okay, the concept is the following: that I'll try to play every possible note of major scale as an open string, if it's possible. Okay, so it's going to be C, D, E, C, D, E. So it's C, D open string, E 7th fret. Okay, I got those three notes to it. Now F, so it's open G, A 7th fret on D string, natural B open string, C 5th fret, and D E, and they're on adjacent strings, so they're ringing over each other. But right now my picking hand my picking hand right now doesn't really stay on the same string. So just because this thing is really terrible. Right? Because upstrokes are really hard. But playing the same note on the single string is also not that easy, especially with metal strings, right? That's roughly how I practiced. And just to keep orders of these fingers, is index thumb third seems to be something that some of the finger pickers do. I mean, it worked for me roughly. Also pretty cool because it's articulated. When I play chords, they almost sound like a piano. It's like very consistent. It's not strummed chord. It's if I'm going for this sound. It's also pretty cool to do the little chicken pickings and popping sounds. Or something. Yeah, from time to time, pretty cool. Now, metronome exercise that I want to share. The one that is quite efficient. Okay, so let's imagine that we have a metronome. Woohoo! Now I don't want to have any accents on it, so okay. Now, this thing, this beat here is my 2 and 4 of the bar. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4. No, no, no. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's start with something simple. Let's imagine that this is a snare drum of a rock and roll drummer playing with a rhythm section, right? And we can place some simple rhythm over it. Say rock and roll shuffle. I mean, not shuffle, straight 8. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is still 2 and 4. Okay. Yep. And that's roughly it. Okay. It's 2:30. I think I'll have my tea. And possibly tomorrow at 2, I'll be playing with the Rev Dog. All right. Thanks so much for everybody who joined me in this incoherent rumbling. I hope you're all well, and I'm hoping to see you all pretty soon. Good night, everybody. Take care.